tell Bird and Lime to come and get their scooters out of this neighborhood. Ponce de Leon, North Avenue. North Island, rather. Ponce de Leon and North Island.
IRS agents. We need more border agents. We need to secure our border, a wall, a fence, or some sort of physical barrier. The fancy politicians have those sorts of things around their fancy homes. We should have it on our southern border. We should stop the illegal flow of people, of drugs, of weapons across our southern border. Right now, China made and Mexico made fentanyl is killing more than 200 people per day. That's the equivalent of a commercial airliner crashing every day because of the porous southern border we have. It's like Swiss cheese. The federal government has an obligation, specifically the Biden administration under Mayorkas's Department of Homeland Security has an obligation to secure that border. When Republicans take the House this year, I'm so confident we will. We're going to hold the administration accountable to secure that border, hire more hire more border agents and less IRS agents, and hire more immigration judges too. We have an unfair 18-month backlog of federal immigration cases. We should deliberate through those cases, clear that backlog, and put our country back on the safe right track.
As an education activist, and as I've been told, Randy Weingarten says one of her worst enemies because I have a very long lawsuit against her. I want to talk a little bit about education because it's not discussed enough about your district. Many people who moved there and thought they were going to be there temporarily ended up staying permanently. And one of the reasons was the public schools in your district. And now you have a lot of issues with education, whether it's a biased curriculum, the idea of the illegal immigrants, which the Biden administration has brought into your district, and now using tax dollars, where your tax-paying voters are upset. This has become a very big issue for mothers in particular, suburban moms who the Democrats are, thinking they have in their hands. I'm hearing from a lot of these mothers that they're going with you because they want to secure public education and quality schools with school choice. What are you hearing?
Let's be clear. Parents should have the largest say in their kids' education. That government has a role through its school districts in order to implement policies, but let's be absolutely clear: the parents should be driving the sorry for the figure should be driving the bus on this, and we need to empower parents, ensure that parents are more involved. And there's a terrible dichotomy right now that exists between the school unions, the New York State Education Department, the federal Department of Education, and the good teachers who want to implement good policies. My wife is a public school teacher, and she and many others are hungry to be able to implement good policies. But some of those terrible woke policies that are removing parents from the equation is strapping them and leaving them powerless to do the good that they want to do with the kids. That's why they signed up to be teachers, to help serve the community, to help empower children, to ensure their education has the right trajectory so they can live out this great American dream of ours. We need to have a vast overhaul of those policymakers to ensure that parents play a larger role and the teachers are teaching curriculum that we want them to teach them reading, math, science, the stuff that we learned as kids. Let's save the crazy sex ed stuff for an appropriate age, and let's take the woke anti-American stuff out of the curriculum too.
Let's start teaching factual history and not opinion of history.
Club fighting with the suspect, potentially saving lives. The suspect is in custody today and has been identified as 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich. Police have not yet discussed a motive. In a statement on social media, Club Q said they were devastated by the senseless attack on the LGBTQ community. Be sure to stay with Newsnet as we continue to bring you the latest on this developing story. Hitting and killing a girl participating in the event. The driver who lost control of the vehicle and struck a child is now arrested and charged with reckless driving along with other offenses. Police have identified him as Landon Glass, and witnesses say moments before the crash, they heard him screaming that he had lost control and couldn't stop the truck.
Drivers, you could see the people in the truck getting out, like telling people, warning people, get out of the way, we can't stop, we can't stop. They were screaming. The cops are saying get out of the way, they can't stop. I definitely don't think this was purposeful.
We're continuing to follow a historic snowstorm now in New York, where the Buffalo area saw even more snowfall last night, adding to a deadly and record-setting storm. Officials say at least 2 people in the Buffalo area have died after suffering cardiac complications while trying to shovel snow. In some places, they've recorded over 6 feet of snow. Whiteout conditions started Thursday and have piled on throughout the weekend. On Saturday, Buffalo shattered a daily snowfall record as residents struggled to clear paths. New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency across 11 counties in western New York.
I also want to announce that I will be, as of today, signing a request for a federal emergency declaration. This is important for us to be able to receive reimbursements for the expenses of this storm. We've been in contact with FEMA, and we feel hopeful, optimistic that this will be granted.
The city of Buffalo has also shut down mass transit and banned travel on most roads. Forecasts say the heavy snow will wind down today, but more is possible later this week. Stay with the news now.
In Midtown, Atlanta police are investigating a fatal double shooting just outside of the Spectrum on Spring apartments, where investigators say 2 victims took their last breaths. According to an APD spokesperson, when police arrived on scene just after 2 a.m., they found the 2 victims had been shot multiple times in their upper and lower torsos. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Spectrum on Spring resident Camille Javery says she was just getting in from a night out with friends around that time.
It was maybe around 2 in the morning, and there were several police cars parked out front with sirens going on.
Javery says she was disturbed to learn what happened right outside the front doors of her apartment building.
It's scary. It's concerning. I mean, you would think that you'd be safe in Midtown, but unfortunately things have changed a lot around here, and, this is not the first of these types of incidents that have happened at this building.
On Sunday night, Atlanta police identified the suspected gunman as Philip S. Mills. Mills was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Javery says she believes she could have been hurt if she'd been coming home any sooner.
It's really unfortunate. This is our home. You want to feel safe. You want to be able to take the dog out and not worry about it, being too dark or there not being enough foot traffic.
And reports of violent crimes like this one have made her consider moving.
Rent here is not cheap for things like this to be happening.
But there are still many questions that remain. Police have not released the victims' identities or shared any details about a possible motive. We reached out to Rangewater Real Estate, the group that manages this building, and several others around Metro Atlanta for comment. We're still waiting to hear back. In Midtown, Joy Dukes, Fox 5 News.
Join me in my opening pearls of wisdom, because I am Zisel Pearl, sweet pearl in Yiddish. Yes, it's the final countdown, and I'm telling you to take advantage of every minute to that countdown. There's no reason to rush to the polls. You will be able to vote in person safely on Election Day. And take advantage of all the news that comes out, all the opinions that come out, all the videos and TikToks and all those social media posts that you see, because people want to make a statement. People are angry, and they are going to take action to make sure that their anger is heard at the polls. We can no longer trust pollsters. We can no longer trust mainstream media. We can no longer trust opinion pieces. Some people don't trust me. I've been called an anti-Semite. But I can tell you this much. Between now and November 8th, people are looking everywhere to be able to have that scoop of dirt on a candidate they don't like. If you see someone not debating or debating too late, that should tell you lots. That should tell you a lot about the organization that they are running. That should tell you about their past. That should tell you about what they would do in the future with your taxpayer dollars. Democracy is in everyone's hands. Be smart and use it safely and carefully. Every election we say it is the most important election of our lifetime, and I'm telling you, this is the most important election of our lifetime, because of the 2 years of leadership of Joe Biden. This is no longer a D versus R. It is survival of America. We have another great lineup of candidates I want you to meet who are projected to win.
Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
Regarding Maricopa County's lawful compliance with Arizona election law. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the story.
Our election officials failed us miserably.
Maricopa County election officials say at least 60 of 223 voting locations experienced technical problems related to ballot printers having non-uniform printer configuration settings. Tabulators could not read some ballots due to those settings. County officials estimate the technical problems may have impacted more than 17,000 ballots on Election Day. Carrie Lake collected accounts from voters that she posted on Twitter. It took Sharissa nearly 4 hours to vote after arriving at 5:45 a.m. before work. She was told to put her ballot into Box 3 but refused. Box 3 is the compartment used when the machines can't scan the votes.
It does not matter how you voted. It's an absolute disgrace what happened, and Maricopa County needs to be held accountable.
The letter from the Elections Integrity Unit requested multiple items, including a comprehensive log of all changes to the printer configuration settings. That's to include the identity of individuals making changes. Kevin Vembry describes his experience at the Deer Valley School District office.
They were saying that the tabulating machines were down. The poll worker proceeded to give me addresses which were way out, which seemed like they were way out of the way. Almost sounded like she was trying to dissuade me from voting.
Tiffany described what her son says happened after he registered to vote at Arizona State University.
Before Election Day, he actually got a text from a group at ASU that offered him $250 if he would rally his friends together to vote Democrat.
She says there were problems at the polling place on Election Day.
They were going down the line telling people to leave and that their vote was not going to be counted. Even though he was there at about 6:20 p.m., they were saying he wouldn't make it in by 7.
Carrie Lake shared this unverified video on Twitter, which appears to show the scene at one of the voting centers where an apparent worker estimates that the tabulator is only working on about 1 in every 30 ballots.
Not that they're going through, they're just not going through the tabulator.
Right, so 29 out of every 30 ballots are being dropped into a box.
The same box that they're dropping into with the tabulator, right. And it's being counted just like these mail-in ballots are being counted.
Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Chairman Bill Gates says the problems did not impact Republican-leaning areas more than Democrat ones.
We found that the 70 vote centers that were impacted by the printer issues were spread all across Maricopa County.
It took Larry Santangelo about 90 minutes to get into his polling location in Anthem.
And as we were on the line, there was this woman who was coming down the line who already voted, and she was explaining to us that they're playing games inside, claiming the printers don't work, tabulators aren't working, and they want you to put your vote in box 3.
Santangelo says the woman was being followed by a Board of Elections official yelling, "Don't believe this woman." He says his ballot was repeatedly rejected by the tabulator. He was asked to put it in box 3 where it could be counted downtown, but he refused because he felt it meant they would throw his vote in the trash.
They blamed the printer. They did blame the printer, but it was probably planned. Just to frustrate you to leave. That's what I feel.
This man lives at a 55 and older community in Maricopa County. He arrived 15 minutes before opening time at the voting center.
Once inside and my ballot was filled out, I turned around and the line was at least 20 people at the tabulators because of the ill-functioning tabulators that should have been properly tested and ready. I believe it was a form of voter suppression.
Katie Hobbs, the current Secretary of State, is the top election official in the state. As overseer of elections, she has several duties, including watching the counts and certifying the election results. Carrie Lake had called out the conflict of interest many times before the election. Hobbs addressed the matter on CNN on November 4th.
I'm not going to recuse myself from the job that the voters elected me to do.
Bill Gates responded to calls to redo the election. He says that Arizona law requires that all 15 county boards of supervisors across the state must conduct a canvass and decide whether to approve the canvass. A canvass is an official tally of the votes.
We will invite people from around the community to speak, and finally, we will decide whether to approve the official canvass.
Assistant Attorney General
Really is hopeful, and it comes across just on the smile. And you've really shared so much of your personal life, your family values with our audience and with everybody. And I think it's just been embraced by the country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have to tell you, I am humbly honored to have President Trump's endorsement. A matter of fact, he came out to North Carolina here in Wilmington, North Carolina, about I think it was the 24th of September, I think is when it was. And I had never spoken or met President Trump before that. And I got to meet him before he went on stage. And I kind of go around the corner and he's like, Sandy Smith. And I'm like, President Trump. And he's like, I'm hearing so many great things about you. And I'm hearing that you're working so hard and the race is, you're going to win this. He's like, I would like to endorse your campaign. Would you mind? And I'm like, absolutely. I would love for you to endorse me. And he that night when he went on stage, he actually endorsed me from the stage, and that was a huge honor. But I'll let you know, because your listeners are like family and friends, and I like to share the experiences because it's like all of us getting to experience it. Mm-hmm. The next week, he called me, I got a message that he wanted to.
For possible violations of several laws, including the Espionage Act, pertaining to classified documents. Can you unpack this for us?
The focus initially appears to be on the removal of documents from the White House. Yet, when one looks at other former presidents, it appears that both President Obama and President Bush also removed documents from, documents which ultimately ended up, to my understanding, in the National Archives or in their libraries, and without generating a full-fledged investigation. So the issue would be, is the search of at Mar-a-Lago, was it really prompted by a search for documents, or was it perhaps a fishing expedition looking for other types of information pertaining to the January 6th investigation? Yes. And now leading into the special counsel appointment, there seems to be a potential tie-in between the two.
So you have a background in prosecutions. What would the DOJ need to do in order to show that there was an obstruction to this investigation regarding classified records?
Well, to show an obstruction, essentially, the initial step would be to articulate facts which would support a conclusion that there's probable cause to believe that obstruction took place. So it's not a high threshold, but it's still a threshold that would have to be met. And, that might account for what prompted this very broad search warrant to be drafted and subsequently executed.
Yes, I see what you mean. You're mentioning the threshold that they need to present evidence. Now, Trump said the gravest threat to the nation is not from abroad, but from within. He says the justice system is being weaponized, and corruption in D.C. needs to be cleared out. What is your reaction to this?
Well, whenever there's too much of an accumulation of power, there's a temptation to abuse that power. Certain aspects of the Bill of Rights have a tendency to be relegated to the past, and the Constitution itself has been denigrated. I would suggest that there is a need for house cleaning, and in order for there to be house cleaning, there needs to be an independent and an objective Justice Department and an independent and objective FBI to conduct investigations into public corruption which are unbiased and which apply to anyone, regardless of political party, if they've committed acts of corruption.
Thank you so much for your analysis.
Stand together. Visit texitnow.org. That's texitnow.org. Paid for by the Texas Nationalist Movement.
Joining the Jewish Patriot now is another Jewish patriot. I am so proud to see Jewish women coming into the Republican Party and not just voting, but actually running for office on all levels. And a true Ashes Kaya, which is a woman of valor to all of our followers, is Miriam Levitt Lissa, who is running against somebody in the squad. And her seat, like every other congressional seat in New York, is now in play because of the #1 issue that is plaguing New York: crime. She represents the Westchester suburban area, not too far from New York City, and many of the residents in her area are afraid to go to work because of what is going on subways, on buses, and on streets in Manhattan every single day. Miriam is going to talk about that a little more and why she is running, and I'm so proud to have another Jewish patriot. Miriam, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And first of all, I really want to acknowledge that America has been great for the Jewish people for generations. And we should be proud of the United States, which I am, because of a few places in human history where freedom is an essential part, and where worship is protected, and traditional values are what makes you an American, not ethnic background. It has to do with the values that you espouse, which is a wonderful thing. In Westchester particularly, we have a very traditional multicultural society, and it's a wonderful place to raise children and to work because of that.
Well, Westchester has a very well-known New Yorker, Rob Astorino. He is a former county executive and a former candidate for governor, and he has endorsed your campaign.
Yes, he has.
And basically, the person you're running against is one of the most progressive, anti-Semitic, anti-Judeo-Christian value leaders of defund the police. And since he called for it, Jamal Bowman, 30% spike in crime just in your district. Tell us more about this spike and what your leader has done, your current leader.
Well, if you decide to defund the police, you can't expect anything but an increase in crime, street crime particularly. If we're told that when we travel down to the city, we have to tolerate people doing drugs outside on the street, watching them, vandalism and street crime, then what do you think is going to happen? It's so obvious that this will all increase. In addition, criminals are released immediately, and they're not incarcerated. And so you have people on the street who have been, before that day, have been brought in and brought back out, let back out again, and they're going to perpetrate crimes again. So it really isn't surprising how this deteriorated. We had a low crime situation before, but if you don't have police to back you up, and believe me, I think we should respect the heroic first responders that we have. I respect them enormously. I was the police commissioner in the village of Scarsdale before I was the mayor. And I did work with the police and the fire department. I was the fire commissioner as well. And I supported the first responders. If you disrespect them.
One second, I lost you. 1 second. I'm going to pause this one. I don't know. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
If you disrespect them and you defund them, certainly you will have a rise in crime. That's what you can expect just by running a government. You can see what's going to happen. I don't know why it went in that direction. It's not only And it was specifically, there were some things against Judaism, well, not just general rise in crime, but we were seen as targets because of our support for a great ally of the United States, the State of Israel, which was designated as a catastrophe by my opponent for the Middle East. And I don't understand, I really don't understand why a beacon like Israel should be designated a catastrophe. It's hardly a catastrophe when you have a nation which gives first quality, first world health care to all its people, and education for men and women.
Including Arabs. Arab women who live in Israel.
That's what I meant. Absolutely. And the right to thrive and have a job. This is a catastrophe? No. This is the modern world coming in. It's a beacon for the humankind. And I don't understand why.
Bonuses. The railroads called it the most generous contract in modern history. That, plus caps on healthcare costs and more lenient attendance policies. President Biden described the contract as a victory for all sides and the nation's economy. But some workers are seeking a better deal, citing the railroad's bumper profits in recent years. A national rail strike is likely on the horizon if there is no agreement by December 8th. The shutdown could freeze nearly 30% of U.S. cargo shipments and cost the U.S. economy about $2 billion per day. An FBI veteran is criticizing the new special counsel appointment to oversee Trump investigations. He says the Justice Department has turned its law enforcement apparatus into a tool to attack a political enemy. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
FBI veteran Mark Ruskin recently told the Epoch Times that the timing of the special counsel announcement is significant. It coincides with House Republicans saying they're going to investigate President Biden and his administration. Ruskin says the special counsel investigation could shift focus away from Biden. He says they'll be hoping to divert attention from the congressional investigations and focus instead on a baseless special counsel investigation. Last Friday, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the special counsel appointment. Former DOJ prosecutor Jack Smith will oversee investigations related to Trump's handling of classified records and parts of a probe into the events surrounding January 6th. Trump has denied wrongdoing, saying the investigations are politically motivated and an abuse of power.
This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts. It started a long time ago. I thought the investigation with the document hoax was dying or dead or over, and the investigation into January 6th, in my very peaceful and patriotic speech, remember? Peaceful and patriotic, was dead.
The new special counsel, Smith, is a registered independent. On Friday, AG Garland said bringing him in is a matter of public interest because Trump is running in 2024 and Biden is interested too. But former Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein says a special counsel wasn't obviously necessary. He's the one who appointed special counsel Robert Mueller to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 election. Rosenstein told CBS News over the weekend he probably would not have appointed a special counsel in this case, saying Merrick Garland clearly made a discretionary decision. With the January 6 probes lasting nearly 2 years, Ruskin says he doesn't expect anything tangible coming out of the continuing investigations. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
For ballots stolen when late at night they rig the polls. In battleground states, the lioness holes, they tint the scales for joy. Soon may the chairman come to look, crack his son. One day when justice is done, we'll see the Democrat. Da 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 da. The cost of fuel has gone sky high. They're ripping with the food supply. The southern border's open wide. Let's go, Brandon, go. Soon may the chairman come to lock him up and his cracked son. One day when justice is done, we'll see the Democrats go. Well, runaway inflation soars, he's bleeding, funding wars. He's lost his mind, he cracked his drawers. Oh, blow, Joey Biden, you blow. Soon may the chairman come to lock him up and his cracked One day when justice is done, we'll see the Democrats go. Soon may the gentleman come to lock him up and his cracked son. One day when justice is done, we'll see the